And now let's go back to one of our top stories. The Quad Foreign Ministers meeting in Tokyo has produced one of the strongest joint statements issued by the forum, comprising India, the US, Japan and Australia, where acts of intimidation using military means is concerned in the East and South China Seas. Follow-up steps have also been announced which will help safeguard the freedom of navigation in international waters and promote peace in the region. Let's talk about it with our expert guest, Professor Harshvardhan Pant, Vice President, Observer Research Foundation. Good evening to you. Dr. Pant, what do you make of the kind of statement that the Quad foreign ministers have issued and the steps that they've announced which will ensure that the freedom of navigation in the Indo-Pacific region is kept safe?
I think, Gautam, it underscores the commitment on the part of the four countries of the Quad to continue to use their weight, political, diplomatic, and increasingly security weight in the region to emerge, to make Quad emerge as the single most important platform in the region, almost as a guarantor of regional peace and stability. And I think the message going out is very clear that unless these four countries start working more cohesively together, it is very unlikely that any other actor will be able to prevent China in particular from being the aggressive country that it has become, particularly in East and South China Seas. And I think the fact that global trade, global commerce and freedom of navigation have to be the fundamental principles embedded in a free and open Indo-Pacific. The statement underscores the commitment of the four countries to uphold that fundamental value. So I think the four countries seem more united than ever and more forceful than ever in articulating the need to make Quad this very key and central platform in the Indo-Pacific.
And doesn't it go beyond these four countries? Isn't it now like a Quad plus?
Yes, I think that the intent is that as Quad becomes stronger and more vocal, more countries that are dissatisfied with the status quo, that are dissatisfied with what China is doing, they will be joining this platform as Quad plus members. So I think a coalition of like-minded countries, which already even Quad is going to expand into more countries that would be willing to partner with Quad increasingly, because clearly now there is a demarcating line. Those countries that want to uphold the existing order and those and one particular nation that wants to challenge it. So I think that is a marker that Quad is now drawing, and I think increasingly you will see the attempt by other countries also to become an integral part of this mechanism, not Quad per se, but Quad plus, as you mentioned, something to be thought about, something to be articulated, and something to be operationalized on the ground as well.
And let's talk about the nature of the steps that have been announced as well. Whereas on one hand you have steps that will enhance domain awareness of not just the Quad countries in the region but other countries as well, such as the Philippines, and then for Palau as well, the kind of measures that will improve its communication capabilities, that is also there. And even in the sphere of cyber security, steps again will be taken to help other countries which are outside the Quad to combat the kind of threats that come their way.
Yes, see, the message is very clear that Quad is not here to contain anyone. Quad is here to allow countries, sovereign countries, to do their best and to ensure that they continue to pursue their interests in a manner that is free and open. And I think that is fundamental. That's the kind of fundamental value that Quad brings to the table, Quad members bring to the table. And I think what they are trying to make a case is that Quad countries are going to be a more credible partner, because they are not interested in anything for themselves, but what they are interested in is a global provision of regional peace and stability, and capacity of the countries concerned, that those countries that are on the receiving end of some of the things that China perhaps is doing, their capacities, their capabilities can be enhanced, so that those countries themselves are they can take on some of the more nefarious designs of China. So I think capacity building is inherent in what they are trying to do, whether it is in the case of Philippines or Palau, or in the case of other actors as well, where as a credible alternative, what Quad members can do is now a very striking feature of Quad increasingly. And I think that's where the differentiation lies when it comes to Quad versus China. That is where the differentiation is deliberately being made, that Quad is not here to pursue a parochial agenda. Quad is here to pursue a governance agenda, a regional governance agenda, and the provision of global public goods or regional public goods, where Indo-Pacific countries are free and sovereign actors to decide for themselves what they want to do. And I think that's what comes out most categorically in the measures that they've taken vis-a-vis individual countries.
And although China has not been named at all by the leaders themselves when they were together, Minister Jaishankar did mention China separately when he was briefing the media. But let's also talk about how other steps have been taken, such as the 2+2 that the US and Japan had, where certain major changes have been put into sort of the pipeline, which will again lead to a certain strengthening of the response to the kind of incidents that we're seeing in those waters.
So yes, so what seems to be happening now for a while, Gautam, is that you have a Quad in place. So you have a matrix is being created where a number of these initiatives, a number of these platforms, a number of these plurilaterals and minilaterals are coming together to ensure that there is, that there is a spectrum of institutional frameworks available for countries to pick and choose. There are trilaterals, there is the Quad, there are other platforms that are emerging, and also it's strengthening of bilateral relationships. So what you were mentioning between US and Japan, what they have done is they have strengthened the core of their alliance framework. They have taken their alliance framework to a new level where increasingly Japan would be able to do with US some things that it was not doing in the past. So I think we are looking at a region where countries, because of their history, because of their value systems, were reluctant to take on some of the challenges. Now I think we are seeing countries like Japan not only taking decisions to change their own internal domestic policy legislation, but also willing to change the nature of their relationships with other countries like the US and also with India. India-Japan relationship is evolving. India-Australia relationship is evolving. India-US relationship is evolving. So you have at the core these bilateral relationships. They go and then become trilateral relationships. And of course, Quad sits at the heart of these relationships as well. So you have now a melange of these initiatives that are feeding into how regional states, particularly those most vulnerable to Chinese aggression, look at some of these frameworks as almost a defensive mechanism, as a deterrence mechanism to ensure that peace and stability is maintained.
Yes, and Secretaries Austin and Blinken are also heading to the Philippines next. Now, let's see what happens over there. Thanks for joining us for the moment, Professor Pant.